And thank you, Chairman Cox, for that kind introduction. And it is amazing to be here. I also want to thank Chairman Casillas for the successful event and being such a gracious host. This is awesome to see all of you here. I couldn't be happier to be here in New York with all of you. And what do you think? Isn't it amazing and exciting to have our presidential candidates, John Kasich, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump, who are in the House? It's been an incredible campaign. But you know what? Why don't we just do rock, paper, scissors and get this over with? I think that's a pretty good idea. But all joking aside, I want to thank all three of you for being here tonight and for caring enough about our country to run for president. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm the daughter of a Marine and a Golden Gloves champion. My dad was also a law enforcement officer. My dad started a security guard business with my hard-working mother. My sister Letty, who is here with us, she's developmentally disabled, and I watched my mom take extra care of her growing up. And as my mom was dying, I promised her that I would take good care of Letty, as I do to this day. Where's Letty? She's here somewhere. My first job with my parents' security guard business was guarding the parking lot at a Catholic church bingo, me and my Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum. You know, I worked hard, and my parents worked hard, and we didn't have much, but we scraped together enough so that I could go to college in El Paso, Texas. Then I went to law school, but it didn't take me long to figure out where I stood in the legal world. I'll never forget when I made the decision to become a criminal prosecutor. I was clerking for a judge. It was a murder case. A husband had brutally killed his 8-month pregnant wife in front of their 2 little boys. He wrapped her in a carpet and dumped her in the river. It was senseless and it was gruesome. And as I watched the courtroom drama unfold, the defense attorney questioning the validity of the evidence and the prosecutor laying out the case in all of its parts, my eyes kept drifting to the same place, to the 2 little boys who, because of their father's selfish, unthinkable, violent crime, would now live without their mother and father forever. I chose a side that day. I said I was going to fight for that unborn child and mother whose lives were cut short, and for those children whose lives were shattered by their father's crime. I served as a prosecutor for 25 years, 14 of those years as the elected district attorney in Las Cruces, New Mexico, a city that sits right on the United States and Mexican border. Cartel activity, we certainly had it, and we prosecuted it. It's also where I met my husband, Chuck, who is sitting, where's my husband? Over here. My husband, Chuck, with the cowboy hat that you all have seen today. He's the first gentleman, and I first met him, and he was in law enforcement as well. In fact, the first time I met him, he was undercover, dressed as a gangbanger and a drug dealer, and I didn't want to have anything to do with that hairnet, and it certainly was not love at first sight. But as you can see, It cleans up pretty good. On my 50th birthday, I figured, what the hell, I'll run for governor. But in truth, there was a lot more to it than that. Our state was badly in need of a new direction and bold reform. I was a long-shot candidate. Nobody knew my name, and I was from the southern part of our state. I ran a primary against a Republican Party chairman and the son of a very popular United States senator. And against all odds, we not only won our first election, we won re-election in 2014 by the largest vote margin ever received by a Republican gubernatorial candidate in the state of New Mexico. Now, I have absolutely the best job on earth, and I might be a bit biased, but there is no state as breathtakingly beautiful as New Mexico. Its culture and history are overwhelming. The adventures we offer are amazing, like skiing, and hiking, and backpacking, kayaking and rafting, fishing and hunting, just to name a few. If you ask New Mexicans what they like about living there, they'll almost all tell you it's the people. We have wonderful people. New Mexico also happens to be the most diverse state in the country. It is a majority-minority state with the largest percentage of Hispanic residents of any state in the country. We have great people, but it's not a Republican state by any means. In fact, much of the time, blue. But it elected a Republican governor. And as the chairman of the Republican Governors Association, I've seen it happen elsewhere too. Who would have thought that at the same point in time, we would have Republican governors in states like New Jersey, New Mexico, Nevada, Maryland, Illinois, and Massachusetts. But let me be very clear. Our governors have shown that it is possible for Republicans to win anywhere in the country. Frankly, Americans are looking for leaders, not politicians. A politician is someone who says whatever they need to say to get elected, and then they forget the promises that they have made. A leader, though, a leader remembers why they were elected every single day that they're in office, and they remember who they serve. They don't take the easy road on tough battles. They aren't transformed by the system. Leaders fight to transform the system. Now, I inherited the largest structural budget deficit in state history. And when I took office, I actually had members of my very own party telling me, I know you said you weren't going to cut that you were never going to raise taxes. You weren't going to raise taxes to cover this budget deficit. Then you were campaigning. You're in office now. It's time to govern. We need to fix this problem. Well, it wouldn't have been so easy. They all have said if I had raised taxes, they would said I was reasonable and it would be okay. And I said, I didn't run for 16 months and give my word to the people who voted for me, and even those who didn't, that I was not going to raise taxes. And in fact, I haven't raised taxes a single time, and instead I've cut taxes. I have cut taxes 37 different times. When I ran for office, I pledged to end the practice of providing New Mexico driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. Those licenses looked just like the one I carry. And New Mexico had become a magnet for illegal immigrants from all over the world to come to our state to get those licenses. Organized criminal activity. I also pledged to end the sanctuary policy for illegal immigrants who commit crimes in our state. Once I was elected, I was told I should forget about those promises as well. I should listen to the political class who says keeping those promises will damage me politically and make it more difficult for our state to work with Mexico, which is an important trading partner. Well, one of the first acts I did was to eliminate the sanctuary state policy, and that was done. And while it took us 5 years, this past session we finally ended the practice of giving driver's licenses to illegal immigrants because it was the right thing to do. These issues were never about immigration. They were about public safety. It's what I told the people of New Mexico when I was running for office, and the people of New Mexico stood behind me. And when you talk about issues as issues and not using them to demonize people, you can get a lot done. One of the first leaders I met was the governor of Chihuahua. We are seizing on our position as a key gateway to Mexico, Central America, and South America. And we have become one of the fastest growing states for exports in the entire country. That relationship wasn't forged by pandering or breaking my word to the voters who elected me. It was built on sincerity, on honesty, and hard working on both sides of that border. And we had faith between us that we would help the people that we serve. And once those relationships are built, we can accomplish great things, like making the state one of the nation's leaders in export growth. And they also pay dividends in other ways. We had a child killer flee our state, and they fled to Mexico. They couldn't find him, featured even on America's Most Wanted. Well, he sent me a letter, he sent me as governor a letter, asking me for help. Yep, he sent a prosecutor who specialized in prosecuting child killers, asking me for leniency. I called my friend, the governor of Chihuahua, and asked him for help. A few days later, the child killer was in custody and on his way back to New Mexico to face justice. We didn't forge that relationship through pandering or cutting deals that weren't in the best interests of either of our people. We respected one another, told the truth to one another, and in the end, helped all of our people. On the other hand, President Obama's track record is one of weakness and failure. He apologizes for America more than he defends what America has always stood for in the world. And it's not as though his brand of left-wing, divisive politics has gained a lot of support either. In fact, on his watch, the ranks of Republican governors have grown to 31 governors in the country. Think about that. There's only 19 other states left for the other guys. On his watch, 918 Democrat lawmakers in state legislatures across the country have been fired. And on his watch, Republicans have more than double the number of state legislatures they control. And in New Mexico, Republicans won the House in 2014 for the first time in more than 60 years. On his watch, Republicans now control more state legislative chambers than at any point in United States history. And Democrats lost control of the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate. It's as though the president sacrificed political leadership from sea to shining sea to force his out-of-step agenda on the American people. And what do Americans have to show for it? The greatest expansion of the welfare states in decades, an economy that is soft as ever, timid, not dynamic, debt as far as the eye can see, and the weakest standing America has had in the world since Jimmy Carter. The American people cannot afford and do not want a third Obama term. But that's exactly what we're going to get if Hillary Clinton is elected as our next president. You think things are divided now. You think the stakes are high now. Actually, the next generation of the United States Supreme Court, it hangs in the balance. Republicans have made gains across this country that are significant and deep, and we cannot give that up. Let's remember what has made our party so great in so many states around the nation. It's the ideas we bring to the table and the conservative solutions. The power of ideas is what brought me to the party, like so many others. I was once a Democrat as well, and I visited with two Republicans who had the time to visit with my husband and me to tell us why. Ask us about our ideas. Ask us about what we thought the solutions would be. Ask us what we thought. I was a Democrat because my parents were Democrats, no other reason. And after a long conversation, I got in the car and I sat next to my husband and I leaned over the car and I said, "I'll be damned, we're Republicans." That was an amazing moment. We all need to remember that our ideas win. This is a watershed moment. Americans want to take a new course, and they're willing to embrace conservative principles and reforms that are clear and compelling, so long as our conservative leaders are willing to listen and be the leaders we expect them to be. I can't tell you what an honor it is to be invited to an event like this tonight. It's a little pinch me moment to think that a little girl growing up on the border, watching her mom and dad live the American dream, could grow up to be the first female governor in our nation's history. I get the importance of that. I feel the weight of the responsibility. Most 6- or 7-year-old girls, they don't know the name of their governor. But everywhere I go, little girls run up to me and they'll say, "Susana, Susana," we give each other big hugs. They know who I am, and these are just little girls. And I wonder, why do they know my name? Is it possible that my American dream coming true is helping ignite the flame in theirs? And you know, the best part is that my story is just one of countless similar, uniquely American stories. And we see them all throughout the Republican Party. Ladies and gentlemen, the American dream isn't dead. It's just hanging in the balance. The notion that tomorrow will be better than today, that's not dead. It's just hanging in the balance. We need to reignite American values and principles. We need to say it loud and clear. We believe that the United States has been so successful because it is so unique, because it is not like the rest of the world, because it refuses to apologize for believing that every person is uniquely created by God, free and capable of changing the world. We will win this election because our candidates, in one field or another, have track records of leadership, of fighting to improve the lives of Americans.